Let me ask you a question. Have you ever thought to yourself, holy moly, that business went viral and got millions of views, they must be absolutely printing money? Well, shockingly enough, views do not equate to revenue, and most of the time going viral can have the adverse effect on your business and the algorithm specifically. Now, today I'm going to show you exactly why your viral content is attracting tire kickers instead of actual real buyers, and the simple messaging shift that fixes all of this. Now, the first thing we got to talk about is the viral content trap, okay? And we have to realize that attention, or this is the attention versus revenue gap, because millions of views does not equate to money in the bank. Think for an example of all the TikTokers, right? Especially, and I'm not specifically talking about, this is specifically talking to people who have a business that's not relying on, ad revenue to come in, right? For example, right? There is a lot of kids out there, that create viral content. For example, Mr. Beast, right? A lot of his money is actually coming from YouTube itself. This specifically, what I'm talking about today, is business owners creating content to sell their product or service, right? And this is specifically for niche online high ticket businesses, right? Because again, if you're selling candy bars or if you're selling something like an energy drink to the masses, sure, millions of views could equate to money in the bank. But again, who I'm talking to right now is specifically you sitting there that owns a business, maybe selling a product or service at a high ticket price, right? And this is what I'm going to be referring to, okay? Because again, if you're trying to make content that's attracting, top of the funnel, a ton of people, right? Again, there's only a specific, percentage of that broad audience that is going to be interested in your product or service. So why not make content that specifically targets those people only and not waste your time with tire kickers that's going to fill up your closers calendars, or you're just going to get tons of leads that are going to waste your setters or appointment setters time, okay? Now, again, when you try to speak to everybody, right, on top of the funnel, you're going to attract no one with real money, okay? Why? Because you're going to be concentrating on creating generic content that attracts a lot of people, but it's going to push away the specific niche people that you are actually trying to target, okay? So say, for example, I can create videos here of, let's think about it, how to make $1 million in a month. Right? Sure, that's going to attract a lot of eyeballs, right? But again, is that going to attract the audience that I really want to speak to at the heart? No, it's not. Right? Why? Because I am going to be talking to a vast majority of people that are going to be entrepreneurs instead of actually entrepreneurs, okay? Now, another mistake that I see, and I've made these mistakes as well, just so you know, I'm nothing special than, no more special than you are sitting there. I'm just trying to pass down lessons that I have learned throughout, studying business owners, which I'm religiously studying business owners and always have, because I believe you need to learn out of other people's mistakes. So I'm just trying to pass all of that down to you. And if you can get a little bit of a snippet of this that will help you in your business, great. That makes me super happy. Now, the third mistake here that I see a lot of business owners, try to create is the lifestyle content, right? And this is where you're going to be showcasing your success without showing who it's for, how you got there, right? And a great example of this is going to be people flexing, these course creators flexing, their cars, their Lambos, their penthouse, and so on and so forth. Even though sometimes it's always rented, right? But again, you're going to be attracting the wrong person unless your course or the thing or the service you're selling is meant for the masses, okay? So again, if your viral content isn't the answer, right, then what is? Hey guys, real quick, if you're looking for salespeople such as closers or appointment setters or CSMs, this is exactly what we do here at Sales Match. We'll actually go out there, recruit them, put them through our stringent vetting process, and actually provide you with the cream of the crop candidates so you can save time working on your business and not specifically in your business. So if that interests you, there are a couple of links down below. schedule a free consultation call and let's see how we can help you in your business. Well, enough of that, let's get back to the video, right? So let me break it down, the 3 messaging mistakes that, are costing you qualified prospects, okay? And this is what keeps a lot of business owners stuck between 25 and 50K a month, okay? Now, the first mistake that I see here is surface level pain points, okay? So most people will target maybe as a title, I want to make money, right? Or, how to make money. Instead of, here's how to build the best sales team for high ticket services or high ticket businesses, okay? You can see you have to start, and you're gonna see the point I'm trying to make here is that you need to start niching down instead of creating massive, broad top of funnel topics, okay? Now, again, generic problems are gonna attract generic or broke audiences, okay? Your content needs to be focused on an avatar, a specific avatar, and your content should be based around solving the problems of that ideal avatar, okay? Now, the second mistake that I see here is the wrong audience qualification, okay? Now, this is where, you are creating content for people who want your lifestyle instead of people who can afford your solution, okay? And again, we can go back to the course creators here, flexing Lambos and penthouses, right? Again, these are going to be attracting, the vast majority of your viewers are going to be people who fantasize about their lifestyle instead of people who are actually taking action. Because the people who take action, believe it or not, like yourself watching this, ask yourself, how many times do you watch and fantasize about somebody else's dreams instead of going out there and getting shit done to make that dream a reality? You're probably in the latter, right? Where you're getting shit done. And think of yourself, if you're selling a product or service, put yourself in the customer or your ideal customer's shoes, because you can probably visualize that better than anybody else could, okay? Now, what is the difference here between aspirational or transactional businesses, right? Now, again, this is the same thing. People who aspire to be whatever the content you're making, right? The top of funnel content versus the transactional audiences. You need to tap in the transactional audiences and you need to speak directly to that specific avatar, okay? And then again, this goes into, business owners versus entrepreneurs, okay? Now, the last mistake I want to talk about here is no business context, okay? You need to be talking about results without talking about the business problems that create the actual need, okay? Now, you might be missing in your content the actual business owner language that qualifies your audience, okay? And how you position, right? For an example, here at Sales Match, right? We're not going to create generic hiring advice for top of funnel, right? We're sure I can be creating content here on, how to staff your entire company, right? Well, I might not specifically have deep knowledge on where to find, the best operator for a specific niche company, right? And sure, could I be doing that? Yes, but then I'm going to be going up against $1 billion staffing companies instead of focusing on a niche where I am specifically good at, which is sales and customer service, right? That is what I'm good at, so I'm going to focus on that specific niche instead of going up against huge staffing companies, right? Because at the end of the day, the richest are in the niches, and you know that just as well as I do, okay? Now, again, you can find better salespeople, but maybe not all positions, that fall, or I specifically can find better salespeople than I think most staffing companies out there because of our systems, our processes, and our vetting processes. But again, I might not be able to staff an entire company. Why? Because that is not my expertise. My expertise lays with sales staffing and CSM staffing specifically, okay? Now, again, this is why I'm saying specifically you have to niche down on your ideal customer's pain points instead of maybe saying, for an example, let me give you an example. Instead of, saying something like, are you struggling to get clients? Niche down specifically and say something like, are you struggling to find underperforming sales, or are you struggling with underperforming sales teams despite having leads? Okay, that niches down a little bit more, right? And again, instead of saying perhaps in your content or in your title, want to scale, dig it a little bit deeper and make it a little bit more niche and say something like, can't scale past X amount because of hiring bottlenecks, question marks, right? That attracts a little bit more of a niche client. However, that client or prospect is going to be higher qualified, okay? And the easiest way to do this is just write down your ideal avatar and figure out what pain points they have and create content around those pain points, okay? Now, again, you need to use business owner language, right? If you're trying to attract business owners, don't use generic language, right? So if you're talking, specifically, use revenue numbers, team sizes, operational challenges, maybe talk about ROAS and stuff like that, where business owners will understand what you're talking about, but the general populations will not. So that's how you can get rid of the tire kickers there. It's just in the messaging and what you say and how you say things, right? Again, you need to speak to people that are already in business, not to people that are trying to start a specific business, okay? Now, let's elaborate a little bit more on the solution specific content that you need to be creating, okay? So you need to connect every piece of content back to your core solution, okay? So every single video that you make, you specifically need to tie that into the core solution that you offer to the general public, or your specific niche, excuse me, okay? You don't want to just educate and provide all of this content for free. You want to position yourself as the answer to their problems, okay? And every single video should be tying back to their original pain point specifically, okay? So again, if viral content without proper messaging or viral content without proper messaging is going to attract that broke audience, okay? And the niche messaging that you're going to be creating is going to be attracting the qualified prospects, okay? Your content should pre-qualify and position your product or service as the solution. So if you're interested in finding, top salespeople, such as appointment setters or closers if you need that, or customer service people, we do exactly that on your behalf. We'll go and recruit them, vet them, ramp them up to KPI, and place them within your business. So if you're interested in that, more in the links down below. But I really hope this video helped you, and I'll see you in the next one.